I want to start probably by giving you a general perspective on leniency programs. They are critical, but extremely complex instruments to be used in the fight against anti-competitive practices. They offer a powerful incentive for firms involved in cartel to spontaneously report their illegal activity in exchange for either immunity or reduced fine, particularly when the fear of discovery looms large. However, the implementation and the success of leniency programs have not been universally consistent. We've observed a degree of disappointment from two perspectives. First, in some countries, there have been cases where the countries have adopted leniency frameworks, but have not witnessed a corresponding influx of application. Secondly, even in countries where leniency program initially thrived, their effectiveness has in some instances waned over time. So this divergence in outcomes underscores the necessity for a meticulous analysis of the conditions that underpin the success of such leniency programs. These conditions are multifaceted and concern four main areas. First, the fundamental design of the leniency program itself. Second, the relationship between the leniency program and the broader legal environment in which it is operated. Three, the strength and the track record of the enforcement authority. And four, the overarching general business environment of the country. Beyond the fact that the program should be well designed, it is crucial to ensure that the interaction between this instrument and other legal interventions do not inadvertently diminish the incentive for potential leniency applicants. Beyond the fact that the program should be well designed, it is crucial to ensure that the interaction between this instrument and other legal interventions do not inadvertently diminish the incentive for potential leniency applicants. In jurisdictions with corporate and individual leniency schemes, it is of paramount importance to provide maximum certainty and predictability across the entire system and to protect both corporation and individual which are granted leniency.
Antitrust law is a field where there is room for nuance, but there are also spaces of antitrust law where there shouldn't be any room for nuances, and leniency programs is one of those spaces. The rules should be crystal clear. Leniency programs can work better when there is more predictability and clearer rules.
When a company makes an investment or decides to do business in a certain country, that's a marriage. If you don't communicate, you are not going to be successful. I would leave the audience with one thought, if there's nothing else you remember from what I say, and when you're talking about investment, and that capital is a coward. Capital is only going to go where it feels very comfortable. It wants to be in a warm, fuzzy place. It does not want to be in a complex, scary, loud, dangerous, venomous kind of environment. And so if you don't create that type of environment, the investment's going to go elsewhere.
What I'm about to share in terms of these facts, they are public and they are undisputed. When I offer opinion, you'll know it. When Kimberly-Clark detected competition violations in Colombia and made the decision to self-report conduct to the SIC. Kimberly-Clark did not stop with its investigation in Colombia. And so by 2014, Kimberly-Clark had self-reported to the 3 Andean nations with leniency programs. As a result, the SIC announced the biggest cartel case that it had ever prosecuted, resulting in record-breaking fines in Colombia. And Kimberly-Clark became the first company to obtain full immunity for self-reporting and cooperating and facilitating this monumental result. A year later in Peru, the same thing happened. Now, if the story ended there, it would be a very happy story. I am convinced that competition enforcement would be much different in the Andean region and quite frankly throughout Latin America. But unfortunately, the story doesn't end there. Kimberly-Clark also in 2014 self-reported to the Ecuadorian authority. The SCPM launched an investigation, was provided with the documents. They made the fateful decision to declassify all the information that Kimberly Clark had provided and to send it to the Andean Commission. This is unprecedented in the world of leniency. It's unconscionable to take the information provided by a leniency applicant, to disregard the confidentiality associated with that, and to share it with another law enforcement authority, who then promptly use that information to launch its own investigation. No company has ever self-reported to Ecuador again, period. The highest constitutional court in Ecuador ruled that the SCPM had acted unconstitutionally when they shared the leniency file with the Andean authority. It redirected to send the fine directly to Ecuador. The Secretary General switched it so it would be the Andean Commission itself who would collect the fine. Is that an inherent conflict of interest? Clearly, it creates a perverse incentive when an enforcer gets to keep the fines that it imposes. Secretary General imposed fines of $34 million. That is nearly 10 times the size of the Andean Commission budget. I said I would offer an opinion. Here it is. I believe that the decision to switch the beneficiary of the fine from Ecuador to the Secretary General is the reason why it ignored the Constitutional Court. It's the reason why it ignored the reconsideration pleas by Colombia and Peru. And it's the reason why it ruled against Kimberly Clark